Yeah, I would say that first of all, the addition of Talk Abroad, at least in our situation, um, we didn't really have to majorly revise the structure of the course because the way we saw it was a way simply to give the students a different opportunity to use language in a very sort of immersive, authentic format that we can't consistently offer them in a classroom with 15, 20 students. In our 100 and 200 classes that use it, we do the 4 conversations of 15 minutes each, right? In some of my advanced classes where I've used it, I'm doing like 5 or 6 30-minute conversations. I mean, I think the main things, some of which have already come up, would be, try to prep the students. One of the things that I think we do fairly regularly, I know I do, is if it's the first time, if you suspect that, or that the students have not done Talk Abroad before, take one class period and make it like a workshop where you let them go to a computer lab or bring their laptops and let them navigate to the site and create their account and explain how, this whole thing's going to work. Let them look over a little bit some of the partners. Well, I think just preparing them as well as you can. And so teaching them a few tricks and strategies and, oh, don't forget these key phrases, easy stuff that, we try to get you to use in class, like, could you repeat, or I don't understand. If you have to, use a drawing, point to stuff. I mean, whatever it takes to communicate, right? This is real. Just imagine that you had no choice, right? I mean, so I think, and that speaks to the authenticity of it, but I think just reassuring them and reminding them things about the fact that the Talk Abroad partners, they are trained to do this. They do this with lots of college students and people in other walks of life. And so what we did was in the language courses, we have very traditional language textbook that we use, and not surprisingly, chapters are thematically organized around vocabulary and language functions. And so what we tended to do was think about what's a way, or even an activity that we are likely to have the students do in class that we could then export for them to do with a native speaker as opposed to a classmate, to sort of take something that we might normally do and then take it up a level for our students to get this sort of much richer language experience and attempt to communicate in a semi-improvised way. I think we've tended to go more along what I've described, more of a communication, reinforcement of vocabulary, but just being focused on, let's make communication work. Let's negotiate when we need to. So they've been more communicative, but not necessarily grammar focused. So talk about, personalization. So, I mean, I just think that's the fun thing about it, that there are so many different ways that you can controlled or less controlled, focused or less focused. I put a lot of the weight of the grading of the individual conversations, on the fact that they just get through and complete the conversation. And they get a lot of the credit, for just doing that. So what I tell them is, every time I get a new round of conversations in, I will review a few minutes of each conversation and fast forward around. And what I want to hear is just that you're making a good faith effort to communicate in Spanish. I'm not going to be, it's not graded on your pronunciation or your grammar or anything like that. And then I ask them to usually do, and this form will vary a little bit depending on what level the student's at, I have them do some sort of very brief follow-up reflection form. And I often let them write it in English because that way they want to explain. I'll ask them things like, describe one successful interaction and tell me why you thought it was, right? Describe one point where you were more challenged to make the communication work. Why do you think that happened? How could you try to work around that next time? And just, maybe 4 or 5 items like that. They can answer it in a few sentences. And then I build that into the grade. you know, and as again, it's another thing that you're going to do well on that reflection forum as long as you're giving me good faith effort to show me you've thought about, you know, and I remind them that they also have access to the recorded conversations, and they can go back to certain points in the conversation so that they can better, you know, make reference in detail in these follow-up reflection forums.